Money heists. Smash that subscribe button like a cell door slamming shut. Hit like if you feel the tension already creeping in, and drop a comment if you're ready to step into a story where money disappears and lives unravel. The police cruiser skidded sideways through rain-slicked streets as red and blue lights sliced the darkness. Cash fluttered across the asphalt like wounded birds, torn from a duffel bag that had burst open during the chase. No gunshots. No screaming hostages. Just the sound of sirens and a single man running, his breath ragged, his eyes locked forward like he already knew there was no escape. 3 minutes earlier, the vault had been sealed. 3 minutes later, $7 million was gone. By dawn, the city woke to confusion. The bank stood untouched, alarms silent, cameras intact. No forced entry. No shattered glass. The kind of crime that unnerves investigators more than blood ever could. Money doesn't just vanish. Someone has to understand the system well enough to make it invisible. Detective Aaron Cole arrived as the sun cut through low clouds, its light exposing a crime scene that felt staged. He walked slowly, noting what wasn't there. No panicked employees. No frantic witnesses. Just a few shaken tellers insisting nothing unusual had happened. Cole had spent 20 years chasing criminals who liked attention. This was different. This was restraint. Inside the vault room, a single safety deposit box lay open. Empty. Its owner, according to records, was a man named Marcus Hale. Recently paroled. Non-violent offender. Financial fraud. Years ago. Served his time quietly. Model inmate. Cole felt the familiar tightening in his chest. Prison had taught him one thing. The quiet ones were always the most dangerous. Hale's apartment was sparse. No luxury. No sudden wealth. Just a mattress on the floor, a folding table, and stacks of legal documents highlighted and annotated with obsessive care. Bank regulations. Security audits. Employee manuals. Hale hadn't been planning a robbery. He'd been studying behavior. Across the city, another name surfaced. Victor Raines. Former logistics contractor. Fired after reporting irregularities that no one investigated. Then there was Eli Moreno, an accountant whose career ended after he took the blame for a corporate embezzlement scheme he hadn't designed. 3 men. 3 pasts. 1 pattern. They met in prison. Records showed overlapping sentences. Same facility. Same cell block. While other inmates gambled with cigarettes or slept away their days, these men talked quietly in corners. About systems. About trust. About how people stop paying attention when routines feel safe. Prison guards remembered them as polite. Predictable. Invisible. That was the real camouflage. The first heist months earlier had barely made the news. A clerical error. Officials said. The second was blamed on software. The third? An internal investigation quietly buried. Each time, money moved without force, without threat, without chaos. The public slept soundly, while millions slipped through cracks no one believed existed. Cole followed the trail backward, not to the money but to the moments where someone should have noticed something was wrong and didn't. A guard who skipped a check. A manager who trusted a familiar face. A system designed to punish noise, not silence. Then the call came in. A storage unit on the edge of the industrial district. Rented under a false name. Paid in cash. Inside, officers found neatly labeled boxes, not of money, but of evidence. Burner phones. Uniforms. Access badges. Blueprints updated weekly. And taped to the wall, a single sheet of paper with times and dates circled in red. Tomorrow. Cole stared at the schedule, realizing the truth as it settled like cold iron in his gut. The heist they were chasing wasn't the first. It was the rehearsal. And whatever was planned next would make everything before it look small. By nightfall, the storage unit was empty. Not looted. Not ransacked. Cleaned. Every box, every cable tie, every fingerprint wiped away with surgical precision. The only thing left behind was a faint smell of industrial solvent and a single latex glove, deliberately placed on the concrete floor like a signature meant to be seen. Detective Aaron Cole stood inside the hollowed-out unit, his jaw tight. This wasn't panic. This was control. Someone had known exactly how much time they had, and exactly how far the police were behind. The timeline collapsed fast. The storage unit had been cleared less than 2 hours after officers first logged it into the system. That meant the crew had eyes inside law enforcement. Or worse, someone they trusted. Cole pulled the case inward, limiting access to a handful of investigators. Too late. Files began disappearing anyway. Surveillance footage from the bank's loading corridor corrupted. Call logs from a key witness accidentally overwritten. Each loss was subtle, deniable, perfectly bureaucratic. That was the genius of it. No violence meant no urgency. No bodies meant no pressure. And without pressure, mistakes hide easily. Marcus Hale vanished the same night. His parole officer reported a missed check-in. His phone went dead mid-ring. The mattress in his apartment was gone, leaving behind a rectangular patch of dust on the floor. Not a struggle. Not a rush. Just absence. Victor Raines disappeared 48 minutes later. Traffic cameras caught his car entering a tunnel on the interstate. It never exited. No toll record. No plate scan. When the vehicle was found days later, abandoned in a commuter garage, it was spotless. Wiped down to the bolts. No DNA. No fibers. The car hadn't been stolen. It had been retired. Only Eli Moreno remained. And he knew it. Moreno walked into a downtown cafe at 7:12 a.m., ordered black coffee, and chose a seat facing the door. He stayed there for 4 hours, pretending to read the same newspaper while his eyes tracked every reflection in the glass. When a waitress asked if he was waiting for someone, he smiled and said no. He left the paper behind. Cole arrived minutes later. Moreno was already gone. But the newspaper wasn't ordinary. Sections were folded to reveal handwritten notes in the margins. Numbers.
Times.
Coordinates. A breadcrumb trail left for someone smart enough to follow. Moreno wanted to be caught. The coordinates led to an old municipal records building slated for demolition. Inside, the air smelled of damp paper and rusted metal. Flashlights cut through darkness as Cole's team spread out, boots crunching over debris. They found the room behind the filing cabinets. A hidden office. Power still running. Screens warm to the touch. On the wall, a flowchart mapped financial institutions across 3 countries. Arrows connected banks, armored transport routes, internal audit departments, and offshore accounts. This wasn't theft. It was choreography. In the center of the desk sat a laptop. Unlocked. Waiting. Cole hesitated. Every instinct told him this was a trap. But walking away meant losing momentum they'd never regain. He opened the screen. A video began to play. Eli Moreno appeared, seated in a plain room, hands folded, voice calm. "We didn't steal money for luxury," Moreno said. "We stole it because survival isn't free anymore. Not for men like us." The video cut between images of prison cells, eviction notices, medical bills, corporate boardrooms. Then Moreno leaned closer to the camera. "You're chasing the wrong crime. The money is already gone. What matters now is timing." The screen went black. Alarm screamed. Cole's phone vibrated in his hand. An emergency alert flashed across the screen. Multiple financial institutions reporting simultaneous internal failures. No forced access. No malware detected. Funds frozen mid-transfer. Market stalling. Not stolen. Held hostage by logic. As officers scrambled, Cole noticed something chilling etched into the dusty floor beneath the desk. 3 names carved deep into concrete.
Hale.
Raines. Moreno. Below them, a 4th space fresh, unfinished. Waiting. And that's when Cole realized the final heist wouldn't target a bank. It would target the people trying to stop it. The financial system didn't crash loudly. It stalled. ATMs went dark across 3 countries within minutes. Payroll deposits froze. Credit card networks slowed to a crawl. No breach alerts. No ransom demands. Just a silent paralysis that spread hour by hour, forcing executives, regulators, and politicians into emergency rooms filled with glowing screens and unanswered questions. Detective Aaron Cole watched it unfold from a command center that smelled of burnt coffee and panic. This wasn't a robbery. It was leverage. Someone had threaded themselves so deeply into the machinery of trust that pulling them out would tear everything apart. And then the message arrived. Not an email, not a call, a printed envelope delivered by courier, addressed to Cole by name. Inside was a single page. Turn yourself in. Below it, a time. Below that, a location. Cole didn't tell anyone. The location was a derelict courthouse outside the city, shuttered after a corruption scandal years earlier. A place where evidence had vanished, testimonies had changed, and no one had ever been held accountable.
Fitting.
Inside the courtroom, dust coated the benches like ash. Sunlight spilled through cracked windows, illuminating a lone figure seated at the defense table. Eli Moreno stood as Cole entered. He looked thinner, older, but calm. "You came alone," Moreno said, almost approving. Cole kept his distance. "Where are they?" Moreno smiled faintly.
Free.
"Or as close as men like us ever get." Cole's jaw tightened. "You shut down half the financial infrastructure of the Western world. People are losing access to food, medicine, wages." Moreno nodded. "Temporarily. Systems recover. People don't." He gestured toward the judge's bench. "Sit." Cole didn't. Moreno continued anyway. He explained how Hale had embedded himself as a compliance consultant under a shell firm, auditing banks that trusted paperwork more than people. How Raines manipulated logistics redundancies, creating delays no one questioned because they always happened somewhere else. How Moreno himself built failsafes into financial software years ago, features meant for disaster recovery, now repurposed. "You can't steal what you already control," Moreno said. "You just decide when others can use it." Cole realized then what the fourth name meant. Not a new partner. A replacement. "You're going to prison," Cole said. Moreno nodded again. "Yes." The word landed heavy. "Someone has to," Moreno continued. "A clean ending. A story with a villain. While everyone looks at me, the system quietly resets. Money unlocks. Markets breathe again." Outside, Cole's phone buzzed nonstop. Systems were coming back online. Funds releasing in controlled waves. No demands. No credits taken. The crisis was ending. "You planned this from the start," Cole said. "Your own arrest." Moreno met his eyes. "Prison doesn't punish crime. It teaches it. I learned what I needed. Now I go back, so no one looks for the others." Sirens grew closer. As officers burst into the courtroom, Moreno raised his hands without resistance. As they cuffed him, he leaned close enough for Cole to hear. There's always another man on a bunk, listening carefully. Moreno was sentenced swiftly. Life, without parole. The media called it justice. Governments called it resolution. Banks called it a miracle. But Cole couldn't shake the unease. 3 months later, during a routine audit, an analyst flagged an anomaly. A micro-delay. A rounding error too precise to be random. It traced back to a firm no one recognized, staffed by consultants with spotless records and forgettable faces. At the bottom of the report, a familiar structure appeared. A flowchart. Arrows. Timing. Cole stared at the screen, heart sinking. The money was moving again. Slowly. Quietly. Not for greed. For survival. And somewhere, behind reinforced walls, Eli Moreno slept peacefully because he knew the final truth. They never needed to break the system. They became it. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one.